At the dawn of the 16th century, the world stood on the brink of a new era of exploration and conquest. The vast oceans became highways for empire, and among the European powers, Portugal emerged as a formidable force in the race for dominance over the spice trade. It was in this context that the great navigator and military strategist, Afonso de Albuquerque, set his sights on a prized jewel of the East, Goa. Background. On November 4, 1509, Afonso de Albuquerque succeeded Dom Francisco de Almeida as governor of the Portuguese state of India, after the arrival in India of Marshal of Portugal Dom Fernando Coutinho, sent by King Manuel to enforce the orderly succession of Albuquerque to office. Unlike Almeida, Albuquerque realized that the Portuguese could take a more active role in breaking Muslim supremacy in the Indian Ocean trade by taking control of three strategic choke points: Aden, Hormuz, and Malacca. Aden trade was controlled by Arabs, Hormuz by Persians, and Malacca by Muslim Malays. Albuquerque also understood the necessity of establishing a base of operations in lands directly controlled by the Portuguese crown and not just in territory granted by allied rulers such as Cochin and Cananor. The Portuguese had already established a strong presence along the coasts of Africa and India, but their ambitions stretched further. Goa, a thriving port under the rule of the Bijapur Sultanate, was known for its wealth, strategic location, and bustling trade. It was a city where merchants from Persia, Arabia, and beyond exchanged spices, silk, and precious metals. If Portugal could seize Goa, it would gain control over a crucial gateway to the riches of the East. In the year 1510, Albuquerque assembled a formidable fleet, sailing from Cochin with over 20 warships and a determined force of Portuguese soldiers and native allies. As their sails caught the wind and the coastline of Goa emerged on the horizon, the men braced for battle, knowing that the conquest of this land would not come easily. The city of Goa was well defended. The forces of the Sultan of Bijapur, led by the formidable governor Yusuf Adil Shah, commanded the forts and walls that protected the city. Cannons lined the ramparts, and seasoned warriors stood ready to repel any attack. But Albuquerque was no ordinary commander. He had studied the art of war, and his strategy was as precise as it was ruthless. As the Portuguese fleet approached the mouth of the Mandovi River, the first cannons roared, marking the beginning of a battle that would change the fate of Goa forever. The first assault and retreat. The clash between the Portuguese and the forces of the Bijapur Sultanate was fierce. The air filled with the thunder of cannon fire, the sharp cries of warriors, and the crashing of waves against the hulls of Portuguese warships. Albuquerque, a seasoned strategist, ordered his men to press forward, launching an amphibious assault on the shores of Goa. Portuguese soldiers, clad in steel armor and wielding matchlock muskets and swords, disembarked onto the beaches under a hail of arrows and gunfire. The defenders of Goa, well-trained and numerically superior, fought with relentless determination. Battles raged in the narrow streets and along the fortified walls, with blood soaking the ground as men fell on both sides. Despite the initial momentum, the Portuguese soon faced unexpected resistance. Reinforcements from the Sultanate poured into the city, and the scorching summer heat took a toll on the European invaders. Albuquerque's forces, though skilled, were outmatched in numbers, and the situation grew dire. Disease and exhaustion weakened his army, forcing him to make a difficult decision. Realizing that continued fighting would lead to unnecessary losses, Albuquerque ordered a strategic retreat. The Portuguese withdrew to their ships, battered but not broken. The first attempt to conquer Goa had failed, but Albuquerque was not a man to accept defeat easily. As his fleet sailed away from the coastline, he began planning his return, determined that Goa would soon belong to Portugal. Months passed, but Albuquerque never lost sight of his goal. He spent this time reinforcing his fleet, gathering intelligence, and forging alliances with local factions discontent with Bijapur rule. In November of 1510, as the monsoon season waned, he launched his second and final campaign against Goa. This time, the Portuguese had an advantage. Internal strife had weakened the Bijapur forces, and many of Goa's Hindu population, frustrated with the oppressive Sultanate, saw the Portuguese as potential liberators. Albuquerque's strategy was swift and decisive. His fleet blockaded the Mandovi River, cutting off supply lines to the city. The Portuguese forces landed once more, but unlike the previous attempt, they met significantly weaker resistance. The garrison, demoralized and outnumbered, struggled to mount an effective defense. One by one, strategic points fell into Albuquerque's hands. The final blow came when the fortress of Goa, the heart of the Sultan's defense, was breached. After days of intense combat, the city finally surrendered. On December 10, 1510, Afonso de Albuquerque entered Goa as its new ruler. The Portuguese flag now flew over the city, marking the beginning of over 4 centuries of European rule. What had once seemed an insurmountable challenge had now become Portugal's greatest triumph in the East. Yet, the conquest was just the beginning. Now, Albuquerque had to secure his new territory, establish governance, and navigate the cultural and religious complexities of this diverse land. Goa was no longer just a trading post, it was the crown jewel of Portugal's overseas empire. With Goa firmly under Portuguese control, Albuquerque swiftly implemented measures to solidify his rule. He established a strong administrative framework, incorporating local leaders into governance while ensuring that Portuguese authority remained supreme. Fortifications were strengthened, trade routes secured, and a naval presence established to deter future threats. Recognizing the importance of Goa as a hub for commerce, Albuquerque encouraged traders from across the Indian Ocean to conduct business under Portuguese protection. Markets flourished as goods from Europe, Africa, and Asia converged in the city. Spices, textiles, and precious metals were exchanged in a thriving economy that soon made Goa one of the wealthiest ports in the East. However, the Portuguese rule also brought profound cultural and religious transformations. Missionaries arrived, eager to spread Christianity, leading to the construction of grand churches and the introduction of European customs. While some embraced these changes, others resisted, leading to moments of tension between the Portuguese and the diverse communities of Goa. As the years passed, Goa became known as the Rome of the East, a city where European and Indian cultures intertwined. Magnificent cathedrals, cobbled streets, and Portuguese-style architecture stood alongside ancient temples and bustling Indian bazaars. It was a land of contrasts, an enduring testament to the era of exploration, conquest, and adaptation. Though Portuguese rule over Goa would last for over 450 years, its foundation was laid in 1510, with the bold vision of Afonso de Albuquerque. His conquest reshaped the destiny of this land, leaving an indelible mark on its history, identity, and legacy. As centuries passed, the Portuguese grip on Goa began to wane. The emergence of powerful European rivals, such as the Dutch and the British, challenged Portuguese dominance in the Indian Ocean. Trade routes shifted, and Portugal's once mighty empire struggled to maintain its hold over distant colonies. By the 18th century, the Marathas, a rising power in India, launched repeated attacks on Goa, threatening Portuguese control. Although the territory was defended successfully on multiple occasions, these conflicts drained resources and weakened the colony. By the 19th century, Goa's significance as a trading hub had diminished, overshadowed by British-controlled ports such as Bombay and Calcutta. Portugal, struggling with political instability and economic decline, could do little to restore Goa's former glory. Finally, in 1961, after centuries of rule, Portuguese Goa came to an end. The Indian government, under Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, launched Operation Vijay, a military action to reclaim the territory. After brief resistance, Portuguese forces surrendered, and Goa was officially integrated into India. Though the era of Portuguese rule had ended, its influence endured in Goa's architecture, cuisine, and cultural traditions. The legacy of Albuquerque's conquest still echoes through the streets of this unique land, a testament to a time when the fate of empires was decided on the shores of the Arabian Sea.